I want to share my origin story with you. How did I get into sales ops?
Welcome back to Sales Operations for Small Businesses.
And the answer to that is, like a lot of people, by accident. So I started off working in operations, ended up growing up to being, it was a small company. So I was the head of operations and I did the marketing as well. And because it was a small company, you see everything, especially as head of ops, you see everything. And so I was heavily involved in Salesforce because I was one of two people who knew how to work the system. The second person was the CEO because he worked it before I got there. And I knew tech. So I just managed to work my way around the system. This is Salesforce. That was at the time of recording now, maybe 15, 16 years ago. Yes. 15 years ago, let's say, roughly. My math and my voice clearly is going. And so because I knew how to work tech, I knew how to get reports. And because I knew how to get reports, I ended up finding out a lot of information. And because I'm nosy, I started asking a lot of questions like, well, what happens if we look at this from this direction? And what happens if we look at this from this direction? And just getting reports and giving it to the guys saying, this is what this is saying. When we actually do more webinars, we get these kinds of customers in. And then it actually takes us, it's a much shorter sale if we're going to go to these trade shows because we've already shown them a lot of stuff in the beginning over and over and over again. Because quite frankly, I was just nosy. And I remember one time in particular, because I was doing all of these things, I was doing sales ops, I was training the sales team on internally their structures and things like that. I was definitely helping out with the clients because I was one of the subject matter experts. I was doing a lot of stuff, and just growing into it. I think if I'm perfectly honest, we kind of I didn't do much operations other than manage a team that managed the operations, and I was doing the sales operations, if that makes sense. And then I remember one day in particular, because I'll never forget it, because I didn't always know how to control my emotions. They were quite regulated back in the day due to undiagnosed neurodivergency. And I got really angry at the guys. They were sales guys at the time, because one of them in particular kept selling things that didn't really exist. So he was selling things and then creating add-ons to it that didn't exist, which was in and of itself not actually bad because it was a training company. So the things that were add-ons were stuff that would need to be created, and that's fine, but he'd sell them and not tell anyone about it. Like right up until we had a signature. And then ops just had to make it happen. It didn't matter the fact that the workshops were happening really, really soon and the time it takes to create something from scratch was longer than that time. It didn't matter. There was no rigor in the sales team to be able to say, this is what you can sell and this is what you can't sell. This is what your boundaries are. There was none, because let's face it, with businesses, particularly in small businesses, because you're really trying to get things up off the ground and every single penny counts, sales really is king. And because businesses have that mindset, it's very easy not to give the sales team any rules to abide by other than bring in the money. You can do whatever else you want if you bring in the money, and that's not okay. Because what happens is, this is how I explained it, you effectively end up setting off a bomb and throwing it over the fence and then walking away and collecting your commission check. And the operations team just had to deal with it. And that would happen over and over and over again until I lost my rag. And it was funny. And it did get better after that. But that's the point that I remember. Clearly, I was doing lots of stuff before, but that's the point that I remember. It's just like, this is not on. You can't keep doing this. It's ridiculous. Like, why do you not follow any kind of rules or structure? Why are you just cutting the price of this to this amount? Just every single space that people can go into that isn't monitored was used in order to get a sale in. It's just like, or you could just get better at selling. You could do that. But hey ho. And so that was pretty much my origin story. I was also studying for my project management certifications, which I got. I now have my MAPM in project management by the Association for Project Management, big up, which I'm very, very proud of. And that's the reason, quite frankly, why in my mind, I see sales operations as a sub-industry of project management, if that makes sense, because of how I run it, because I do it in small businesses. So in the same way that you have IT project managers and project managers that specifically work in transportation, or ones that work on with oil and gas and things like that, I'm a sales operations project and program manager. That's how I see myself, because that's how I run everything. That's how I train people to run it as well. Which, by the way, there is the Managing Sales Operations training course that's now up on Udemy, which I'm very, very proud of, because it gives you what you need in a simple 101. This is what we're doing. And you can also get the preparation document for that, which is on salesopseffect.com/library, called the Sales Ops Role Model. So yeah, that's how I train people. I train people to treat sales operations as a program and the individual tasks underneath it as projects. And yes, some of these things happen over and over again, thus operations. But if you treat them as projects, you're much more likely to deliver to them on time, quite frankly. And when you're working on your own in a small business, you really need to be efficient. And so I've seen nothing wrong with the way that I treat operations. I've seen other people, sales operations, I've seen other people really, the things that you hear about in groups on the ways people are having to work just to get the minimum done, it just doesn't seem right. So rather than trying to burn yourself out, I would strongly suggest treating it as a program with projects within it. And like I said, you can go to salesopseffect.com/library to get your free copy of the Sales Ops Role Model. That will give you a nice starting place, or ask me any questions wherever you've seen or heard this. So that was my origin story. That's how I came into it. I learned operations, I learned project management, and I was doing sales operations the whole time. I did not know it was called sales operations until maybe 2/3 of the way through. And then I really had, it was a big surprise. It's like, oh, all of this stuff exists. Because when I was doing this stuff in companies, it was new to them too. I didn't know there was arena outside. So for anybody who's thinking about coming into sales operations, thinking that everybody already knows everything and you might be a bit behind the curve, you're not. You're not. Please come and please learn. We need more of you. We need more of you, particularly those who are ethical, because I've also worked with people that are not ethical and they're dangerous. We'll get into that in another episode. But yes, that was my origin story. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next talk.